Hey guys, welcome to the Distinct Mastering YouTube channel. Today I'm going to show you how to create your own custom risers so you can get drops and builds just like that. We're also going to get into creating some falls as well. So if you want to learn how to create your own instead of digging through the tired old same sample packs that you go through, then this video is for you. Also, I've got a special surprise for you. We're launching our new sample pack on NOS Recordings, Serum Risers Volume 1. It's a bunch of my custom risers plus some templates for you guys to use. And if you're a member of this Distinct Mastering YouTube channel, you can also get a couple of these risers for free in the creator tier in Patreon. If you like the music that's playing in the background, it's a new one of mine out on NOS Recordings. It's called Heather. I would appreciate if you'd like to check that out and support. Links to that are down below. Now let's get into my Ableton session and make some custom risers and falls. Okay, first, before we get into creating some risers and falls, let's talk about why this is important. Digging through sample packs can be tedious. Sometimes you don't find the right thing. And creating your own sounds is very unique to you. So if you're not big on sound design, I'm going to give you some foolproof tips on how to create your own risers and falls. If you're new to synthesis and sound design, this is a great way to get started. You can kind of learn some of the synth parameters from oscillators to pitch modulation, and it's a good way to start building some of your own custom sound sets, which then gives you your own sound. And so let's get into what a riser and fall is used for the newbies. Sorry if you already know, but in the transitional areas of your song, say breakdowns and buildups, you typically will use risers and transitional elements to fall down and then build up. And you can create these own things with a simple thing called pitch modulation. And you can use a lot of effects and various movement in your synth to enhance that. So let's get into playing with some sounds. So here's a quick look at the pack, and you're going to get all these risers plus these templates down below, which I'm going to recreate the templates. So, you know, you're going to be able to steal that from me, but I like to load them up for quick access to building my own risers. Now, this is just some of the risers I've built over time, but here's an example of what one of them sounds like. And as you can see, it's just going to rise all the way to the top. This one says bass house mid riser, typically something I probably used in a bass house track. You can play with the pitch bend for movement. So let me give you an example. Typical pitch bend, but I left a note there for some of you because it's kind of cool to do that. Here's another one. And so that's what you can use in your transitions if you're kind of a newbie to producing house music. Okay, so we're going to get into the basics of setting this up. So basically what you're going to want to do in Serum, remember, if you're using another synth, you're just going to need to transcribe this over to that synth. What I like to do is I like to set up my templates. So I'm going to show you how the templates work. Basically, we're going to create a riser. So we're going to take this LFO and we're going to make it rise up. And you can control the rate right here. So if you want an 8-bar riser, just move it to 8. Now, one thing that I like to typically do is set the trigger to start, because sometimes I might have extra spaces. And if you don't do weird things like extra 1-2 bars, the LFO may start in the middle, and you don't want that. So you might want to trigger it every time you hit a note, and that will just start the riser at the beginning every time. So this is a quick how to build your own risers. I'm not going to get into the specifics of Serum. I'm just going to show you what you need to know. Now, if you want to change the 8-bar to say just hertz, you can do so, but by syncing it to the DAW, it's really going to help you create the rise that you need in context with your session. And you can use the anchor function as well if you're looking to just anchor it and always follow the BPM. So once again, the BPM will change between free time or synced to the DAW. And then the anchor, as you see, determines whether or not the LFO will always be synced in the global song position in BPM mode. So something that I typically just leave on when I'm building a riser or a fall. Now, what does this sound like? Nothing. We just have a simple sawtooth wave. We don't have anything going on. We have no modulation. So what you want to do is you want to take this and you want to just move this to the chorus. And now, all of a sudden, I'm already getting the rise. Now, for the simplicity of this video, we're going to work with a 2-bar rise. Just for now. Just to make things move a little quicker. And that's really it. That's how you could set up the basic template. If you want a 16-bar rise, there you go. Now, it doesn't sound that cool, so this is where you can get creative with your risers and falls. So the first thing that I would consider when I'm building risers is what type of waveform do I want to use? Do I want a sawtooth? Do I want a square? Do I want a sine? what kind of things do I want it to sound like? Am I going to layer it? The second thing that I like to consider is what type of modulation might I want to do? Do I want it to wobble around the speakers? Do I want it to just gradually pitch up or pitch down? There's different things that you can create movement with the rise. Do I want the detune to be kind of shifting so it's kind of getting wider and smaller? So those are the types of things that you want to think about when starting out and building your patch. And then the last thing you probably want to think about is what type of effects you might want on the rise. You can put the effects within the synth itself, but sometimes it's nice to actually use the effects within your DAW that is in your template or in your session so things kind of match. So that's one thing to consider. One suggestion, if you're using some of my risers, try turning some of the effects off and turning some of your delays and reverbs in your session on. Now, another thing to touch on the course, if you hold Option Shift and click, it'll change the direction. So that kind of raises the start point. And you can also change the course itself. So if you want to go up or down, -12, you can start in a different position. Change the octave if you want, or you could just move up and down the keyboard as well. Basically changing the MIDI start position will change the octave. So what we're gonna do is we're just going to go ahead and I just hit Command M, and if you don't know my Ableton shortcuts, I have a bunch of cool videos on the Ableton shortcuts. Links to that are down in the description. And I'm just going to put in middle C a MIDI note. And I'm just going to put in the middle C a MIDI note, hit legato. Boom, there we have our riser. So let's take this little section and loop that. Now let's get back into what I was talking about. First of all, you have options for waveform. Let's play with this sine wave. So say you like that. Well, maybe you want to layer that. But now you don't have the rise, so same thing. Just match your settings here. You could also do a copy to be with mods and then change the waveform from there. Now we have a combo between a sine and a sawtooth, which is kind of cool. Now you can play with things like detuning, making this a little bit wider. Obviously you need to be mono compatible, so keep that in mind. If you're curious to know about mixing in mono, I have a very old video on that as well. It's always best to check for mono compatibility. I'll leave you a link to that in the description as well. So what if I like where this is going, but I want to, okay, let's take this octave down. I'm just playing around. I kind of like that, but these wavetables don't have any modulation in them. This one does a little bit. So maybe I take this LFO and modulate it. Now I'm getting some movement. Let's turn the BPM off and increase the rate. What I could also do is put an envelope to this and slow it down as it's progressing. Now let's try a different waveform here, something with a full table. Let's go to something a little more complicated. So you see how I just now took this envelope and modulated the wavetable position, so you see it moving down. And this is the type of thing I'm talking about with creating movement in your sounds. The next thing that you might consider is adding some basic effects. You could do lots of things. The possibilities are really endless. You could add noise. Let's add some noise. There's a little hum right there. So maybe if you wanted to get that sticking out. You could even automate that, so we can go the other way. If you wanted to. You know, like I said, I probably wouldn't do that, but I'm just playing around. That's the beauty of synthesis. So let's not bypass that. Let's just remove this. So we just slowed that down, the decay. So then the next, like I said, effects. Let's play with some effects. We'll just use the Serum effects. One thing I like to add to risers and falls is reverb. Take out some lows. Could try to add chorus. And that's really how you build all kinds of different risers. Some of it's trial and error. Some of it you'll get to know as you get better. But as you get to know what parameters do, you can start customizing sounds for your productions this way. Another thing you could do is add some distortion, you know. That's pretty cool, the diode. Crank up the drive, lower the mix. You really hear that noise. Turn the noise down, bring the pitch back to 0. Try to change the noise. I like that. You know what I might try is like automate the level. Modulate the level. Doing that kind of gives it like a nice little quick fall. Like a white shotch. And so yeah, you know, remember, if I want this longer, just extend it. Now what I can do is take this and extend this to 4. Oops, I have this looping. Sorry about that. Now, one of the things you can do without getting too into the specifics is also add more modulation with frequency modulation, otherwise known as FM. So typically with FM synthesis, you would turn the level of one of them down, but sometimes it's fun to play with it. So if you FM from B, you can see I'm getting a mix of that plus the frequency modulation of this sine from this waveform. Let's try to turn this one off and try FM from A. That's pretty cool. So then I could take this fall and go all the way. Let's go the other way. Remember, Option Shift click. And you see it's going this way. But we want it to go this way, so we're going to go up. So this is a pretty cool riser. I should probably save this one. Now, because the frequency modulation is affecting from this one, the octave will affect the modulation as well. See that? Another thing you could choose to do is maybe add the sub. But the thing is, with the sub, you're not going to get the modulation, so it's not a common thing to do with the rise. You'd have to have a common tone running straight through the rise, which you could do. Another thing you could do is obviously use a filter. This is not an advanced technique, but you could automate that as well. And I understand some of this is pretty basic for those that do know synthesis, so, you know, this is more about showing some of the beginners. And I think I have some friends that would benefit from watching this video as well. So let's go back in here. Another thing you could do is potentially, let's put the compression all the way at the bottom, is put a little multi-band compression to control all of the different bands. Like if I wanted to squeeze that. Here's before and after. And you could mix that. So that's pretty cool. I'm going to go ahead and save that one. So if you want to start saving your risers, you could just drop them in your presets folder and, you know, go to presets, go to users, wherever you want. And then you could just put in whatever name. And boom, I've saved this riser into my presets. And yes, so that is how you can create your own custom risers. So you might be wondering why I haven't covered the falling. Well, it's really simple. All you have to do is take this first LFO that we created with the rise and just swap it. And now you've created your own custom fall, which can be the beginning of your breakdown, and then you have your rise for the end. Possibilities are really endless. And I hope you found this video useful. If you're new to the channel, please consider liking. Subscribing to the channel will keep you up to date on new videos. Drop me a comment, let me know what you guys would like to see, and do check out my membership section. I'm doing some cool stuff. I've got bonus only videos. I've got a Patreon with a more creator tier access where you can get sounds, sample packs, and various things that I'm giving away. And just lots of knowledge for you that's more enhanced than the generic basic stuff. So if you want to get more in depth, check that out. If you like the music that's playing in the background, it's a new one of mine out on NOS Recordings. It's called Heather. Links to that are down below. I'd appreciate your support. And until then, I will catch you on the next one or see you in the members area. Peace.